In today's episode, we discuss the menacing wooden coaster that thrilled and disappointed enthusiasts all in the same ride. Welcome to Airtime Traveler. Hey everyone, welcome to the Roller Coaster History Podcast. You are listening to Airtime Traveler. My name is Nathan Grace, and as always, I'm joined by my wife and lovely co-host,
Haley Grace.
And thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the podcast. If this is your first time listening, welcome to the podcast, and hope you'll stick around and see what we've got to talk about. If this is your first time listening to Airtime Traveler, here we talk about roller coaster history. So I'm a coaster enthusiast and have been for a long time. And my wife, Haley, is a member of the GP, or the general public. And so I'm here to tell the stories of the histories of individual roller coasters. And she is here to make me more interesting.
That's right.
So if you haven't yet, be sure to go and follow us on social media. We're on Instagram and on Twitter. You can just find us at Airtime Traveler. And if you go and follow us right now, you can actually pull up the pictures that we post. So I'll be showing Haley pictures throughout the episode, and I'll post those pictures on Instagram and Twitter. So if you want to pull that up and follow along with the pictures as we go through the history of this coaster we're talking about today, then you can do so. You can do that on Twitter and on Instagram. So I think that's everything I have today. I guess two more things. I've been giving a shout out to CoasterBot the past few episodes. This week, I believe, is the final few days to go and put in your CoasterBot rankings. If I remember correctly, they're doing a first tally at the end of November, and then they've talked about opening it back up before the end of the year in case you pick up any new credits in December. But anyway, be sure to go, if you're a coaster enthusiast, go and check out CoasterBot and go vote on their polls. We talk about CoasterBot a lot here on the podcast, so I want to give them a shout out. And then this past week not this past week, but the week before, was IAAPA week, which we talked about briefly in the Silver Bullet episode that I did with my sister. Just talked about what IAAPA was. Now, Haley, do you remember what IAAPA was?
It's like the convention for roller coasters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. So
and they release news, and then they have different booths for all things coaster.
Yeah. Good job. You listened. So there wasn't a ton of stuff that got revealed at IAAPA. Not like last year there were a couple new coasters that got announced, and there was a few that got announced, but nothing really major.
I mean, Kennywood didn't announce it through
That's
IAAPA.
technically they weren't at IAAPA, but they announced a new flat ride. There were a few flat rides announced. There were some coasters announced, but they were at there was one that was at a boardwalk park, and it was a small one. I can't think of anything that really. What there was a lot of there's a lot of train reveals. So a lot of these big coasters that have been announced for next year, a lot of the coaster manufacturers brought the head train for the lead car for some of the trains, and so that was a lot of what happened. There was some for the 3 SeaWorld parks did that, and Dollywood did that, and Cedar Point did that for their Wild Mouse coaster that's coming. So there was lots of train reveals, which is fine. I don't get super excited about train reveals, but anyway, that was the bulk of IAAPA. Nothing too groundbreaking. So, all right, that's all I got.
We did the one train reveal though for Great Bear. Was it Great Bear?
Great Bear.
Not Great Bear. What's the new one in Dollywood?
Oh, Big Bear Mountain.
Something like that. But the
That
Jeeps
doesn't
were
sound
really
right.
cool that they had.
Big Bear Mountain? Is that what it is? I don't know. Why does that not sound
Great
right to me? I think it's Big Bear Mountain, but I don't. For some reason, that doesn't sound right in my head.
And,
anyway,
yeah.
I did like first of all, the trains had actual working headlights on them, which I think is a really nice touch when they do that. Because coasters look really cool at night when they have headlights on the trains.
Yeah, I agree.
So that looked good, and then also like it had they kind of displayed the onboard audio a little bit, so kind of got me excited to see how that one's going to look. So, and we're going to get to go to Dollywood next year, so I'm excited to give that one a try. So
yeah, me too.
So they also revealed the lead car for Zambezi Zinger, which is the new one coming to Worlds of Fun. Also, we'll get to try that one next year too. So, but anyway, lots of train reveals. Lots of them. There's at least 10, 15 train reveals. So, all right. Well, if you don't have anything else, I guess we'll just jump right into our topic today.
Yeah, for sure.
So, today we're going to be talking about Mystic Timbers at Kings Island. Why is this not working? I always do that. I always hit the record button and then I come over here and my slides aren't working. Talking about Mystic Timbers at Kings Island.
Yes.
You're thinking Twisted Timbers.
Oh, boo.
I had a feeling that was gonna happen.
Dang it.
No, Mystic Timbers at Kings Island, not King's Dominion. That's the wooden coaster at Kings Island. The one that kind of goes. It's not the Beast.
Was it the first one that I rode? The one that...
It's the one that's right over by Diamondback. And it's like... I think you only rode it one time. This will help you remember. It's the one we went on right before we went and got those fries. The really spicy buffalo fries.
Does it have the weird video thing?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. You know what I'm talking about now.
Yes.
So that's what we're talking about today. So Mystic Timbers originally opened in 2017. So this is the newest coaster that we've talked about on the podcast.
Fancy.
Yeah, only a few years old. Ranked in the Golden Ticket Awards every year since it opened. So it started at number 11 in 2017. And over the past 5 years that it's been open, it was 11, 11, 10, 6, and 6. So it's actually, the ranking has gotten higher and higher over time. And that's in the wooden category. In the CoasterBot rankings, it ranks at number 23 in the country, which makes it the 5th highest ranking wooden coaster in the country, which is pretty impressive. So I wanted to see, I pulled up I've got the top 8 wooden coasters in the CoasterBot rankings. This is just for the United States. So it's El Toro at Six Flags Great Adventure. The Voyage at Holiday World comes at number 2. Outlaw Run at Silver Dollar City is number 3. And then Ghost Rider at Knott's Berry Farm, number 4. Mystic Timbers is 5. And then number 6 is Boulder Dash at Lake Compounds. That's up in Connecticut. And then Phoenix at Knoebels in Pennsylvania. And Goliath at Six Flags Great America in Illinois. So those are the top 8 wooden coasters, at least according to the CoasterBot rankings. So a lot of people give a lot of high praise to Mystic Timbers to be in company with those. So at Kings Island, it actually ranks higher than anything else at the park. It's the highest ranked coaster at the park, which I find kind of interesting. I think you and I have both discussed that we typically don't enjoy wooden coasters as much as the average coaster enthusiast, I think.
Right.
So I think that's why you and I enjoy things like Diamondback, Orion, Banshee more than Mystic Timbers per se.
I really enjoyed Orion and Banshee, I think, the most.
So, a review of the name. I do think it's a really good name. It's just very... Yeah. Well, and for a wooden coaster, throwing timbers in there is always a really good way to signify to people that it's a wooden coaster. And so,
I mean, Twisted Timbers. That's why I got it confused in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So,
which we will talk about Twisted Timbers later on. So, that's good news for you. I know I know you love yourself some Twisted Timbers.
I do, man. It's funny. Like, I'm not usually a person to ride a coaster over and over and over again, but I think I could ride that one. I mean, we did. We rode it like 2 or 3 times.
We rode it. We rode it 5 times when we were at the park that weekend.
Was so fun.
It was a lot of fun.
Well, because it was so easy to just jump right on it.
This park was so dead.
Yeah, but we're not talking about it right now.
Yes, we're not. We're talking about Mystic Timbers, not Twisted Timbers.
Okay.
I think the logo looks really good too.
Sorry.
You're fine. I think the logo looks really good. I think it just really tells the story of the ride.
Yeah, I like that it's green and brown. And I know it's very natural looking, but they did it well enough that it still looks creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Like the trees.
With the little tree with the face in the background. It looks really good. It's a good looking logo. So
it is a good looking logo.
Review of the paint scheme. There's not really a paint scheme, but I think that's on purpose. Yeah. I mean, that's the idea. It's a wooden coaster.
Well, and I think it's cool too because Mystic Timbers, you're riding through a forest.
Mm-hmm.
You get that a lot on this ride.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and not only that, but it's themed to a lumber yard, which we'll talk about the theme later on. But so it kind of makes sense for it to just use the wood to your advantage at this point, and it also means you don't have to worry about painting it every off season or every other off season, whatever. You can just leave it as is. So, but I do really like the trains.
Yeah, I just noticed the trains. They honestly look like what the Bear Mountain in Dollywood might look like.
Yeah, they do look very similar. This one's kind of, we'll talk about it, but this one's kind of designed to look more like a truck, where Big Bear Mountain's kind of designed to look like a Jeep.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do see the similarities for sure. Like I said, I do wish that these were actually working headlights on there. They're just for decoration. But that's just getting nitpicky. So the trains do look really nice. There's a blue, a green, and then I think the third train is an orange one. So
which is surprising. I mean, they would have had the technology to put working headlights in 2017.
Yeah, I think it's just more
like an aesthetically
pleasing look. Or like it was just cheaper and they didn't feel like it added that much for them to do it that way. Or maybe they wanted it to be dark when you go out in the woods at night. I could see that too, where like maybe they just didn't want headlights because they wanted it to be.
Now, did you get a night ride in on this?
I didn't, and I really want one, but because we were only there for one night, I put all of my emphasis on making sure I got a night ride on the Beast, which was worth it. So, but next time we go, I would definitely this would probably be my next night ride I want to get is on this one. So, here's the park's description. Mystic Timbers ride into the unknown. Everyone who enjoys the fun and thrills of riding a roller coaster will want to experience Mystic Timbers. Themed to an abandoned lumber company, riders experience 16 airtime moments as they weave along 3,265 feet of track through wooded terrain, over water, and through a mid-course tunnel at speeds up to 53 miles per hour. The coaster is naturally exciting because of its setting in a densely wooded area. The natural rugged terrain and tunnel ensures a unique and memorable ride experience. And then it goes on to talk about the manufacturer and some of the other features and stuff. So, but there you go. That's the gist of what the park is telling about the ride. So, one of the more normal ride descriptions we've read recently.
Yeah, for real. I think some of those ride descriptions, like someone's like really bored. Really bored,
or not even like last week there was like a grammatical error in the ride description for Silver Bullet. And so it's like sometimes they're just not even checking it properly.
Yeah.
So we do have customer reviews, but we're actually going to talk about those later. And I'll explain why when we get to that point in the episode. But don't worry, we do have customer reviews coming. We're just not going to cover them now. So.
Okay.
All right. So let's go ahead and talk about the history of Mystic Timbers. So let's go back to 2009. Yeah, so like last week
didn't you guys go? I mean, Kirsty was with you last week because I was sick, but like you guys went to like the 1800s.
Yeah, so I said last week, I'm pretty sure that was the furthest back we'd ever gone.
I think
this is the
earliest.
This is the earliest. Like we're only going back 13 years. I'm very
curious to see how much history you have because I feel like that's not going to be a lot.
I was worried about this because obviously the newer the coaster is, the harder it is to pull up like history.
Yeah.
Especially if the ride isn't like replacing other rides, which Mystic Timbers didn't. There was nothing in that spot before. And so I was worried I wasn't going to have enough substance. But fortunately, there's a lot about the development of the ride and some of the things that like inspired the ride and different things they had to do to create it that gave me enough substance to talk about. So we're not going to be talking a lot about like rides in the past that inspired the ride or things that came before, but we are going to talk a lot about how the ride was developed and how it came to be, which I find just as interesting. So let's start in 2009. So let's talk about Diamondback. So our story starts here right at Kings Island, right where we're going to be for the majority of the episode. So Diamondback opens in April of 2009. It was $22 million, which was the most expensive coaster that Kings Island had built up until this point. 230 feet tall, 80 miles per hour. It was tied for the tallest and fastest hypercoaster in the country. So it was a big deal. There was a lot of people that were really, really hyped about Diamondback, and it was really popular among enthusiasts, and still is, honestly. It's still ranked really high in, CoasterBot rankings and stuff like that. I think it's the number 2, if I look at these CoasterBot rankings. Yeah, it's still number 2 at the park in the CoasterBot rankings. So, okay. Very popular.
I still think that's so funny that Orion and Banshee, aren't higher.
People just like the airtime. And I think enthusiasts are all about airtime.
Yeah.
And so Diamondback provides more airtime than Orion and Banshee does. And so that's gonna, that's the attraction there. And to be fair, Mystic Timbers does as well. Mystic Timbers is all about airtime and high speeds. So, right. So extremely groundbreaking coaster, but not enough, because 2009 Golden Ticket Awards, Diamondback finishes second. And it finishes second to a coaster at one of Kings Island's sister parks. And that was Prowler at Worlds of Fun. So Prowler opens in May of 2009. Only $8 million. 85 feet tall, 51 miles per hour. And wins the award for the best new ride of 2009. And like I said, Diamondback finishes second.
Weird.
So we've talked about GCI before because we talked about Wildcat, which was GCI's first project. People love GCI coasters. And so this was a really big project that GCI took on in 2009. And some people think Prowler probably shouldn't have won, but I mean, the fact is that it did. So Prowler wins the Golden Ticket Award for Best New Ride of 2009. And still highly regarded. It's still regarded as the best roller coaster at Worlds of Fun. So I'm excited for us to try that one when we go next summer to Worlds of Fun. But so in the aftermath of the Golden Ticket Awards, Kings Island park officials were disappointed that, and it's a sister park, so it's not like, you're not like, oh man, the enemy beat us. It's more just like, oh man, I kind of wish Diamondback had won, because not only was Diamondback
more expensive,
bigger, it was more than twice, almost 3 times as expensive as Prowler was.
Yeah.
And so as a park official, you got to be sitting there going, like, is that really worth our money to spend that much, cash on a coaster that, lost out to this cheaper alternative? And some people would argue it is, because they're 2 completely different experiences. But the fact of the matter is they didn't win the Golden Ticket Award that year, and that got them thinking. So at that point, they didn't have like a new wooden coaster. They had the Racer, which we talked about in, I think, episode 8. That was our last Kings Island episode. They had the Beast, which was built in 79, so still pretty old. And then they have Woodstock Express, which is It's a little wooden coaster.
All right.
So they didn't have like a modern wooden coaster that had been built recently. They just had 3 pretty old ones. And they had Son of Beast, which we will talk about Son of Beast at some point because that's a crazy story in of itself. But that one had been torn down by this point. So again, they don't really have any new wooden coasters. So at this point, they're like, maybe we should be getting something like Prowler at Kings Island. Maybe we need something. We need to have GCI come in and do a low to the ground, high-speed wooden coaster at Kings Island. So that was the thought that crosses their mind in 2009.
And they did it.
And that's the end of the episode. So,
the end.
Yeah, and thanks for tuning into this. No.
Wait, we need the reviews.
The customer reviews. Obviously, can't end the episode without customer reviews.
All right, let's just skip to the end.
So in the following years, Kings Island would add Boo Blasters in 2010 and Windseeker in 2011.
I like Boo Blasters.
Boo Blasters are fun. So
I can't remember. Did I like the Boo Blasters in King's Dominion or King's Island better? Do you remember?
They're all blending together
which
now.
One
I
had
think
the lasers?
I think King's Dominion was the one that actually had
the
lasers that you could see.
Yeah, I liked that one.
Yeah, so they had Boo Blasters in 2010, Windseeker 2011. Their next big coaster they add is Banshee. They add in 2014. So another expensive coaster, another
I didn't think
massive.
Banshee was that old.
Hmm?
I didn't think Banshee was that old. I thought it was pretty new.
I mean, 2014. That's not super old.
But I
that's like 8
didn't
years.
think that Mystic Timbers was. I thought Mystic Timbers was older.
Yeah. So Banshee 2014, another massive coaster for the park. Expensive, again, because it's a big steel coaster. Largest and fastest inverted coaster in the world. 2014 Golden Ticket Awards. It finishes second.
Whoa.
It lost out to Flying Turns at Knoebels, which is wood.
That's crazy.
So, to be fair, Flying Turns is a wooden bobsled coaster, which is crazy. That coaster is a story that, again, we will spend a whole episode talking about Flying Turns at some point.
There.
We haven't been there. We gotta make it to Knoebels.
Knoebels, where's that one at?
It's in Pennsylvania, but it's like north of Philly.
Oh, yeah, that's probably why we haven't been there.
Yeah,
north of Philly is like really far.
Yeah, it's pretty far from where you're from.
Yeah.
So.
Fun fact: only people that from Pennsylvania will understand this, but Pennsylvania is a lot bigger of a state than people think it is. So anybody that says, "Oh, well, you're from Pennsylvania, you've been to Philadelphia," no.
Haley's from Pittsburgh, and she's never been to Philadelphia, but that's because the state is massive.
It's like
How far?
7
Yeah, it's like
hours away.
6 hours to Philly from Pittsburgh.
Yeah. My family's been, but I was on my mission. For
Yeah, you're on a church service mission.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah. So. There you go.
So, yeah. So it loses out to Flying Turns. So, okay, now they've lost out to 2 wooden coasters with their steel coasters.
Let's put a wooden coaster in.
That's exactly what they're thinking. Early 2016. Okay.
Yeah.
So early in the year, construction wall pops up in the park. It says, "Caution, watch for falling trees." So enthusiasts were kind of like, oh, maybe there's like a new log flume coming in, because they have like a small log flume, like the little Charlie Brown themed one there. But they don't have like an actual big log flume. So they're like, oh, maybe they're putting a new log flume in at Kings Island.
I thought they did.
Mm-mm. Kings Dominion does, but not Kings Island.
Yes, it does. Because
that's a shoot the chutes ride. So it's similar, but it's log flume specifically means like you're sitting like in line, where that one's like a big boat where you're like sitting fire like 8 across or whatever.
I guess I don't know the difference, but
I mean, from an actual ride experience, they're not totally different. I mean, it's just a splashdown and you're getting wet.
Different.
Typically log flume rides are themed more. Like Splash Mountain is themed way better than like Pittsburgh Plunge at Kennywood. So that's kind of the difference there.
Got it. Okay.
So they thought there would be a log flume, but in June, coaster plans were submitted to the Mason, Ohio Planning Board, which I find this is crazy that coaster enthusiasts are just scouring like city commission boards and like just to like see if they can find coaster plans, because the amusement parks have to submit these plans with the city before they can get them approved, right? They have to file for building permits and all that. And so there's some enthusiasts that are just constantly scouring the internet for like to see if like, oh look, such and such park filed a building permit for whatever, and so then all these rumors start flying of like what's coming, and so
people have too much time in their hands.
So, pretty soon after, though, the park started putting out its own teasers. So, in late June, media outlets in the area received a toy axe with a cryptic note attached. It said, "Something is going down in the woods of Rivertown. Stay tuned for further details. #KI Project 2017. So, all the media outlets in the area are like, oh, what's coming to Kings Island? And, that's the idea, is to get the media and the in the area talking about it and get social media going with the hashtag and everything. 3 weeks later, media received a light blue die-cast pickup truck, which I actually have a picture of here. So they sent out like a few of these, and it had like these sticks in the back, and it says major announcement, details inside. And if you like opened up the little like note on there, it like said, it basically was an invitation to the media event announcing the new ride, which would take place on July 28th, 2016. And they would have to like RSVP and everything. So Kings Island holds this special media event for the announcement of the new ride. They held it at 10 p.m., which is kind of interesting.
That is interesting.
Like after the park was closed, like they just like had this special event for the media to announce the coaster. Over 1,000 people attended, which is crazy. And like people were getting in line for the announcement 2 hours beforehand. Like not even to get on the ride, just for the announcement of this ride. Again, they're getting in line 2 hours beforehand.
People have too much time on their hands.
To be fair, if I was invited to one of these though, I don't know that I'd show up 2 hours beforehand, but I'd definitely be early. So, but yeah. We got a long ways to go before we start getting invited to media events.
True. That'd be really cool, though.
So, at the event, Kings Island would officially announce Mystic Timbers. This would be a massive wooden coaster from GCI to open in the spring of 2017.
I really like these, like, when I can see kind of more.
Yeah, when you can, when they have like these renderings without all the like scenery and stuff, so you can see the whole ride.
But I really do like the renderings that are like the old timey sketches too. Like I think those would be really cool to get you for Christmas or something and put them in your office.
Yeah, they don't really do that anymore because like you can still get them for old rides, but for new rides, I mean, everything's done digitally nowadays. Yeah. And so this is pretty much this is the modern day equivalent of a blueprint, back in, back in older coaster times. So, but, it's a really interesting design from GCI because, and Prowler is very similar to this ride where, like Wildcat kind of like was like a spaghetti bowl where it kind of like wrapped around itself and kind of was all contained into one area, where this one it like goes out into the woods and then comes back.
Yeah.
So very different from what they had previously done with Wildcat. So and then I think this is the announcement video here. So they showed this video to let me turn the volume up. So they showed this video at the media event to officially announced the coaster, but then they also posted this on their YouTube, and like this was how they announced it. I mean, that's how recent we're talking now. Is we're talking about announcements happening on YouTube versus a newspaper like some of the older coasters we've talked about. So for those of you who can't watch the video, it's basically showing different rides at Kings Island being overgrown by vines and branches and leaves. And like the whole park just completely covered. And then it's going to show this little section here and go into the actual coaster. So it's showing like vines growing underneath Diamondback. And then here's the render of the POV of the coaster. So 53 miles per hour, 16 airtime hills, a mid-course tunnel. extreme S-turn. Oh. And then hashtag what's in the shed. Mystic Timbers, find out spring 2017. So GCI said that they took inspiration from the Racer, as you know, they wanted to make an outback layout. And then they also took inspiration from the Beast, like putting it out to the woods, having a mid-course tunnel. A lot of enthusiasts would call it Prowler 2.0 because it's kind of the same idea as Prowler at Worlds of Fun, but it's a little bit bigger, a little bit faster, a little bit longer. All the things. During development, one of the things that they were struggling with was designing a layout that would not require them to tear out the river rapid ride, which is over in that section of the park. So to do that, the coaster actually goes over the rapid ride, going both directions.
Which is crazy.
So you can get some good angles at the coaster if you go on the rapid ride, which we didn't get to do because it was closed when we went. So, but that's okay.
What a bummer.
So, and Kings Island said that once this coaster was complete, they would reclaim the title of having the longest collection of wooden roller coaster track in the world at 18,804 feet. So kind of like collectively with the 4 wooden coasters in the park, they would have more wooden coaster track than any other park in the world. So if you like wooden coasters, this was the place to go.
Yeah, there you go.
And then what's in the shed? So you saw it at the end of the video. It says hashtag what's in the shed. So first of all, it was kind of weird for Cedar Fair to have so much theming in a ride.
Yeah.
Like this is kind of more in line with like a Disney or a Universal to have theming like this, right? Which was refreshing to see Cedar Fair kind of dive into that and have like an actual story that they're telling. Hashtag what's in the shed became a viral sensation among enthusiasts because even in the POV videos that Kings Island released,
there wasn't anything.
Like the POV would end at the shed, and they basically said you won't see what's in the shed until you come ride the ride.
Oh, crazy!
So even if you pull up a POV nowadays on Kings Island's YouTube, it still doesn't show what's in the shed. That way, people that haven't been to the park can't get it spoiled unless they look it up. So people were going crazy about what's in the shed. Like, people were like, there were rumors flying all over the place. I just went through old Twitter and Reddit posts, and
here we go.
Here's some of the rumors. There were like 5 major rumors. Okay. The first one was that there would be a drop track, which there's only a few coasters that even have this, where basically it locks the train into place on a piece of track, and then that piece of track actually drops down like a drop tower, and then connects back onto a piece of track and goes.
Like that.
I've never been on a coaster that has that. There's only a few in the country, and none of them are wood, so that would have been unheard of for that to be on a wood coaster. Rumors also included like an animatronic, like a really cool animatronic in the head, like a Yeti type animatronic, right?
A broken Yeti. Yeti.
Some people said it would be like augmented reality of some kind. I don't know. They didn't really explain how that would happen, but just some people thought like maybe augmented reality or virtual reality of some kind.
Weird.
Some said like maybe a saw that would like come down and simulate the train being cut in half. Like it would look like it's going to hit you, but it actually like goes way over your head or whatever. And someone said like maybe it'll like simulate like using lasers or whatever to make it look like the train got cut in half in between the 2 passengers or something like that. So I don't know. That was another rumor. And then the other one was like maybe to like come to the shed and then there'd like be something coming towards you, like a saw blade or something. And then you would go through one final drop, just like a near miss moment, and then like come back up into the station. So those were kind of the ideas and rumors that were flying around the internet of like what's in the shed. That's what enthusiasts were talking about. So construction would start shortly thereafter. Oh, there's the promo for hashtag what's in the shed.
What's in it?
What's in the shed? So construction would start. Construction would start shortly. Construction would start shortly thereafter. So here's some construction pictures here.
God, I was bad with all the yawning I'm doing. Slurring your words.
So here's the station under construction here. I found this kind of interesting. This is the first drop. Rather than build the lift hill and then the first drop, they did it the other way around.
Weird.
So I don't know. I'm no coaster engineer, so I don't know what if that's different every time or if it's just dependent on the ride what the best method of construction is. I don't know. So I thought that was interesting.
Huh.
This is the tunnel here. You can kind of see there's the frame that they're building for the tunnel. So I think this is the coming back from the tunnels. You come around here and then up and over these hills as you make your return trip. So some construction facts that I found used 330,000 feet of wood, 30,000 pounds of nails, 88,000 bolts, and 5,500 cubic yards of concrete to build the ride. That is crazy.
That's a cool... You should do that every time. I like that. Sometimes
it's hard to find the information of how much materials was used, but I did find it this time, so I was able to throw that in there. And one thing that is interesting that I don't know all the details, but I will tell you that different manufacturers use different types of wood in construction of wooden coasters. Because I even read about, I'm not even going to try to tell you what types of wood they were because I don't remember. But basically this coaster manufacturer would use 6 layers of a soft wood that was more malleable. But then the topper track was a different type of wood that was harder, so it would it wouldn't get worn down as quickly.
Yeah.
So in this case, they used southern yellow pine was the wood of choice for Mystic Timbers.
Wow.
So, but it's fascinating that they do get particular about the wood that they use because different woods have different properties.
You never think about those things until you have to.
Right?
That's crazy.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's one of those things that you're like, oh yeah, I guess that makes sense because different woods are all different. They have different properties, and some are more flexible than others, and some, take too much water damage or whatever, and that's not good to be out in the in the elements if it's going to take too much water damage. So just crazy things like that you don't really think of. So throughout the end of the year and going into 2017, hype for the ride would continue to build as the mystery of the shed remained unknown. March 20th, 2017, the ride had its first test run, which the park actually recorded. I'm going to mute it just because the sound is kind of obnoxious, but the park actually recorded the first test run, which is pretty cool. Kings Island is very active on social media, and they do a lot of stuff like this, and so I do appreciate that, but there you go.
What's in it?
So they're water dummies. So that's how they accurately they use water dummies to kind of accurately determine how fast the train is going to move when it actually has people in it, because it'll move a lot faster when it's empty versus when there's people in it. So they need to test it with water dummies to give them a correct assessment of the actual speed of the ride without putting people's lives in danger. So that's what was in it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Then, after 9 months of construction, Mystic Timbers opened to the public on April 15th, 2017, and continues to operate to this day. These are some pictures of the ride from its opening.
I feel like your pictures are better.
Maybe. I didn't get very good pictures of Mystic Timbers just because it's out in the woods. It's hard to get a good angle of it. So,
right.
But this is I really like that picture. It's a nice one. So this one's a little blurry, but you can kind of see how it goes out into the woods and comes back.
Maybe that's what I need to do is buy you a drone.
To take pictures. You have to get permission from the parks to get to use drones though for pictures. So.
Okay, I apologize for my squeaky chair. It's not usually this squeaky.
We'll have to find some WD-40 for that. So the ride experience for Mystic Timbers is as follows.
Okay.
After leaving the station, the train makes an S-turn to the right, crossing over the railroad, then to the left before climbing the lift hill. Upon latching onto the lift hill, a pre-recorded voice chastises the riders, saying, "Hey, hey, I see you up there. What on earth do you think you're doing? This is security. Seriously, guys, you need to take that truck, go home to your video games. This place is not safe." Cresting the 109-foot lift hill, the train slows again so that another pre-recorded voice can tell the riders over the loudspeakers, "Whatever you do, don't go in the shed." At the top, the train makes a swooping 98-foot drop to the left before rising over another hill. At the crest of the second hill, the train makes another left turn and crosses over the lift hill before diving close to the ground and traveling over a series of airtime hills over the Miami River. The track briefly enters a covered tunnel as it makes a left-hand turn to change directions and return towards the station. The return track runs mostly parallel to the outbound track until near the second drop, where it veers to the left to hit the brake run, coming to a stop outside the entrance to the shed, with a total of 16 airtime moments during the course of the ride. So, that begs the question, what was in the shed?
I know.
So, for those of you that haven't been on Mystic Timbers, spoiler alerts,
Yes.
here's what was in the shed.
Freaking stupid. Creepy.
Upon stopping on the brake run, a pre-recorded audio segment is heard. A security guard is heard saying, "Don't go in the shed, this is a restricted area." The audio loops several times and slowly begins to glitch and skip, eventually changing to, "Go in the shed, go in the shed, go in the shed."
That's so creepy.
The train proceeds slowly into the shed, which is only dimly illuminated by flickering overhead lamps and fluorescent lights. After passing through the storage tracks, the train comes to a stop. In this room, an assortment of saws, vines, leaves, a vending machine, and other items left behind workers are seen. A cassette player starts playing 80s music until a loud screeching sound is heard. Projection screens show one of 3 random events. The first is bats. A large group of bats swoop at the train, followed by a giant one that swarms the middle of the screen. The second one is a huge snake appears on the screen and appears to take a biting lunge at riders. And the last and least common occurrence that you can get is a swarm of insects crawling on some tree branches after a giant tree comes alive, giving the illusion of grabbing the train as it passes by.
Which I heard it has spiders in it, so I'm not a fan.
I have that one on here, but it's just the tree. It doesn't have the insects on it.
I'm
So
kidding you. I will walk out.
No, it doesn't. It
not,
just has the tree. So
you will not hear from me anymore on this episode.
It just has the tree. So here. Oh, but I want the sound. Give me 1 second. So, well, let's see. So I think because there's 2 projection screens. There's the one that's right in front of the train, which is the one we're looking at. I think the insects are over on this one over here, which is...
It better be.
So if you ever get that one, just look straight ahead. So here's the tree. There you go. So, as the projection plays, the trains make their swift escape as they take a 90-degree turn out of the shed and into the station. The projections were built by a company called HoloViz. So,
Hollow what?
HoloViz, like hologram or hologram, holograph and vision. HoloViz, I guess. I think that's what it was for. So,
all right, HoloViz.
Reactions to the shed were subpar. Which brings us into customer reviews.
Let's do it.
So I started compiling these, and so many of the customer reviews talked about their reaction to the shed that I was like, well, I can't do that at the top of the episode. So I decided to put it in here so we can kind of see what these people talk about. So some of these don't talk about the shed, but so here we go. We got 1 star. Do not ride if you're worried about whiplash. Worst coaster experience of my life. LOL.
Why would she put LOL? Ashley, my girl.
1 star. Forcing people to rent a locker. Shame on Kings Island.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Every ride.
Well, to be fair, they make you pay for the locker, which only Cedar Fair does that.
That's true.
So I am kind of in agreement on that. That like if you're gonna force guests to use a locker on your ride, at least make the dang thing free. So I kind of have to agree with that one. Even this guy says every other amusement park that has mandatory lockers for personal bags offers free lockers for the duration users wait in line to ride. I agree.
It's like funny because I almost feel like they're discouraging like bags in the park, but it's like, I don't know, as a person that needs a bag, like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough.
Because even like, you know, if you have, like, if you're a guy, you need your wallet, the keys to your car, like, and if you don't have zipper pockets, you have to put it in the locker.
Yep.
So it's like, even if you, I don't know. Yeah, I agree. It's kind of lame.
Yeah, if you're gonna force people to rent a locker, make them free. That's just a money grab for people that want to ride the ride, in my opinion. So, 1 star, like driving in a car.
Oh.
What?
No, it's not.
If you ever drove a car like Mystic Timbers,
Something
I would
is wrong
jump
with
out
you.
of the car out of fear. That is crazy.
Please do not
Who's
drive.
driving a car? No.
Please don't drive like that.
No. Here's our PSA for the episode. Do not drive your car like you're riding Mystic Timbers. Thank you.
Beautiful.
1 star. Sucks too fast. Sucks. Okay, there's no punctuation, so I'm just going to read this as is. Sucks too fast, too much roughness, and not fun. Fast, big drop, and no point of it. Shed is disappointing. Backlot stunt coaster better than this. LOL.
LOL is so overused. Please don't use it unless you actually think something is funny.
Oh my god.
It's not funny. That's not a funny comment. Like, stop. Sucks too fast.
Sucks too fast.
Sucks too fast.
I think it's trying to make saying sucks, period. Too fast, period. Too much roughness, period.
And not fun.
Fast, big...
Period.
I,
Fast, big
this
drop.
is quite the
period.
review.
And no point.
3 stars. The coaster is great. The line takes 2 to 3 times longer than any other in the park due to the theatrics at the end. Not worth the wait.
Okay, they run...
How can you say the coaster is great but not worth the wait? Those two things don't mix. I mean, I guess it is a 3-star review, but anyway.
Okay, continue.
So, alright, let's see what people have to say about the shed. My second favorite coaster at Kings Island. What's in the shed? A big letdown, to be honest, but still a fun ride. Okay. Very smooth, 4 stars, very smooth for a wooden roller coaster. The ending is the only weird part. They could have left that out. 4 stars, smooth and fast ride. The shed they talk about all the time was disappointing. Otherwise, a great ride. 3 stars, the coaster itself is great. Sadly, shorter than I would like, but the speeding course is fantastic. The ending is slightly disappointing. Does the hype? I'm not exactly sure what they're trying to say there, but
yeah.
3 stars. I enjoyed the airtime and that it was surrounded by trees and cut through the train station. But the sit at the shed was boring, and I don't know if it plays the same song every time or not, but it definitely took away from the experience. Yada, yada, yada. Anyway, basically, shed was boring. 3 stars, fun ride, but the ending is a huge letdown, etc., etc., etc. This is the kind of the, I won't read all of these, but these are kind of the general consensus. The only reason for 4 versus 5 stars is the wait in the shed is 2 to 3 times longer than it should be. That, honestly, is my only complaint about the shed.
Yes, I agree. I felt like I waited a long time.
I do think it was a little overhyped for it to just be projection screens.
Right.
So it's like, okay, whatever, it's fine. It's better to have at least a little theming. But once you get onto the brake run, you sit in the shed for like 2 or 3 minutes before the projection actually plays because they're waiting for the station to become empty. So they kind of use it as a way to have an extra brake run so that it increases capacity on the ride, which is fine. It's better than sitting out in the hot sun. Instead you're sitting in a shaded building. But yeah, it kind of takes away from the experience when you're done with this intense ride and then you're like, okay, now we wait.
Now what?
And you just wait there to see the ending of the ride, essentially.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, but...
And then I have this wild story of a review. You ready for a roller coaster of a review? Here we go.
Okay.
2 stars. Mystic Timbers is overall a good coaster, but we went yesterday, and during the ride, at some point closer to the end of the track, my elbow hit the side of the seat I was sitting on and cut my arm wide open. I had blood pouring out all over the seat, my clothes, the track, the wooden deck that you step out on when the ride ends. So we were trying to get the attention of the employees, which were nothing but teenagers, to get some help, and they were extremely rude and left me standing there bleeding everywhere for a long time before calling EMTs to come help. It was pretty scary not knowing how bad the injury was. We couldn't see because it was such a bloody mess. They definitely need to train these kids better about blood cleanup because they didn't wait for somebody to do it the right way, instead just smearing the blood around with a dirty rag. Gross. The major disappointment for me was the fact that not a single park employee or the man I gave my statement to ever once offered an apology. Whoa.
Wow.
Whoa.
That's the true scary part of the ride. My goodness. Lady.
That is wild.
They need a projection on your story. My goodness.
I don't know if this story is true or not, but what a review. And the best part about it for me is it's not a 1-star review.
They
still give it 2 stars.
Why would you give it a 2-star if you hated it that much?
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh, Megan. Review. Wow. So. I hope you are okay, but seriously, why would... And, like, it's not even like a ride review. It's her experience of the employees. So it's, like, not even... I don't know. That's interesting.
Anyway.
To say the least.
Quite the review.
All right, gotta train our kids on how.
I guess blood. So that's the reaction to the shed. Fortunately for
I'm still caught up on this whole blood thing. Like, what the heck? Okay, listen. Let's just take a minute. She said she's bleeding all over the coaster. If you lose enough blood, you pass out. Like, so she's like saying that she's like.
She makes it sound like her arm fell off.
Yeah, it's like
she got amputated.
She cut her arm. Number one, how did she even cut her arm?
I don't know.
There's nothing to cut it on.
But at the same time, I don't know why someone would make up this story. So, I don't know. This is so...
Okay, blood pouring out all over the seat may close the track, the wooden deck that you step out on when the ride ends.
I don't think it's worth it. I think you just leave the story as is.
I'm just trying to picture this in my head, and I don't understand. Being a lifeguard, you don't lose that much blood that quickly unless you literally lose your arm. And so it's just like, where is this coming from?
There. We're gonna move on.
Okay.
Okay. That's the reaction to the shed. Okay. Fortunately for Kings Island, the reaction to the ride as a whole was much better than the reaction to the shed. Some enthusiasts would even argue that it was the best wooden coaster in the country. So, like, people loved the ride. It was just like the shed was kind of a letdown. Yeah. So,
darn shed.
But one of the things I will praise really heavily about Mystic Timbers is it has incredible theming. Yes. Especially for a Cedar Fair ride. Cedar Fair is, I mean, they usually have a theme to their rides, but it's usually not immersive. And absolutely, Mystic Timbers takes you in to the world and the story that they're telling. And if you pay attention, you'll pick up on what's happening, and you'll hear the story through the different clues that they're giving. It's not like last week where you had to find this sign and read the sign to understand what in the world the story was that they were telling. So it's much more obvious. So for example, this is some audio. So here, let me talk a little bit about this. So the theming was done by Daniels Woodland, which is a company in Paso Robles, California. So they just do like props and different things like that. So they did like all the theming work in the shed and in the queue and different things like that, building all the props for everything. The queue begins with a sign at the main entrance displaying Miami River Lumber Company, which is named after the railroad that's in that area. It's the KI and Miami River Railroad. And so the idea behind the story behind the ride was that they built the lumber mill here because it's right next to the railroad, so they can use the railroad to, get the lumber and transport the lumber out of there. And so it's the Miami River Lumber Company. Features a vintage GMC 1000 series pickup truck that's right at the front of the queue, which we saw earlier. It's also the design for the trains was inspired by the truck that's in the queue, and so that truck appears to have crashed into one of the sign's pillars. Now, the truck itself has an interesting story. So, first of all, if you go and stand by the truck, the radio is actually playing in the truck, and the windows are down. And it'll play some 80s music, but there's also a guy that will come on the radio and tells the whole story of the ride. And so I've got a little clip of that. It's only a small clip because from my understanding, the audio clip that plays is like 10 minutes long.
Whoa.
So you could sit there and listen to this whole story that the radio plays from the truck. But here's just
a place to stop and eat lunch, I guess.
Yeah, so here's just a little snippet. I think this is just the very beginning of what the radio clip has. So.
set the backstory. Last year, the Miami River Lumber Company purchased land just northeast of town from the Ramsey family. Perfect for a logging company, if you ask me. I mean, enough untouched timberwoods for an age, and right next door to the railroad, too, so I mean, how perfect for these guys, right? And they get straight to work, clearing out the space, ready to build this brand new mill until they come across the foundations for this old wooden shed that once stood on the grounds. These guys must have thought it was good fortune and started building on top of the existing foundation. Well, just short of a year later, construction is complete and these boys are getting ready to mill good and proper. Now this is where it gets interesting. I mean, this is where it gets really interesting. You see, the superintendent for the mill, he just disappeared. I mean, just disappeared. He was here one minute, and then he was gone the next. I mean, what happens?
So it goes on, basically he tells the whole backstory of the ride in just kind of that same fashion. So if you really want to know the whole story of Mystic Timbers, like that's the best way to go and find it.
Just go sit next to
go stand next to that truck and listen to the radio. So the truck was also, so it's an authentic truck that they just found at like a junkyard, but they wanted to design it to look like it had crashed into the sign. And so to do that, I actually found this video of Daniels Woodland and how they made the truck look like it had crashed into the pole.
Okay.
They had this giant cannon prop that they had used for something else, I don't know. But they swung the cannon from a crane into the front of the truck to make it look like it crashed to a pole. And so
I want that job.
Here you go. Here's the video. And there you go. That's how they did it.
That's so redneck.
Hit the truck with a cannon.
So if you want to go watch that full video, it's actually
their laugh is hilarious.
Yeah, if you
You're
want
like, that was fun. Let's do it again. Like,
if you want to watch the full video, you can find it on Kings Island's YouTube. It's I think it's called Mystic River's Truck Smash. I think is the name of the video. So
that's really funny.
Or Mystic Timbers. I said Mystic River. Mystic Timbers Truck Smash. So anyway, that's how they got the big dent in the front of the truck, and it worked perfectly. So that was pretty interesting. So as you're standing outside the ride, there's also a message that plays over the speakers that just says, "Do not enter. Mandatory and ongoing lockdown is in effect for the Miami River Lumber Company. Repeat, do not enter."
I remember that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the theming is just extremely well done, and it really adds to the kind of this eerie and unsettling atmosphere of the ride. And one of my favorite parts of the ride was, like, I mentioned it earlier, as you get to the top of the lift hill, like the chain slows down as like they say this message, like, whatever you do, don't go in the shed. And then you like speed up as you go over almost like you're kind of hesitating as you're driving the truck. And then they're like, don't go in the shed. And you're just like,
no,
let's do it. Let's do it.
Yep.
And then you just dive right in. And so it's just little touches like that really made the experience for me. And so
for sure,
they did a really good job with the theming.
I do remember that being commenting on the theming of their ride.
So that's the reaction to the ride. The whole reason that we even have made it to this point is because of the 2009 Golden Ticket Awards, right?
Yep.
Because Diamondback got beat out by Prowler.
Okay.
So here we are. Here we are. We're at the 20.
Are we at number one?
Here we are. You and I, we're sitting there. We're here. We're at the 2017 Golden Ticket Awards, right? We're here. It's September 9th, 2017. It's hosted at Lake Compounce, amusement park up in Connecticut. Here are some of the awards that were given out that day. Best Park went to Europa Park in Germany. Best Children's Park went to Idlewild, actually.
No way.
Yeah. Best Food went to Dollywood. Best Dark Ride went to Tower of Terror. So, some good stuff there that you should be familiar with. Here's some of the notable attractions that were going up against Mystic Timbers for Best Attraction of 2017. Wave Breaker at SeaWorld San Antonio. Mind Blower at Fun Spot Kissimmee. Heidi the Ride at Plopsaland, Belgium, Invader at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, DC Rivals Hypercoaster at Warner Brothers Movie World in Spain, the Haunted Mind Drop at Glenwood Caverns, and most notably, Flight of Passage at Animal Kingdom. Which I know you are going to have you have a conflict of interest at this point, whether you would have voted for Flight of Passage.
Oh, 100%. 110%.
Haley, I think we've talked about this before, but Haley is an Avatar. Like, she has banshees on her cell phone case.
Yeah.
Like, she loves Avatar. So, Flight of Passage definitely would have been her choice. So we're sitting there. Those are the rides we're going up against. And the winner of the 2017 Golden Ticket Award for Best New Attraction is Mystic Timbers.
Aw, they did
They did it. Mystic Timbers won 2017's Best New Ride
Good
Golden
for
Ticket Award.
them.
So what they were going
Flight
for,
of Passage
they
should've
accomplished. They accomplished. So after all this time, so 8 years after Prowler won the award, they build Mystic Timbers and get the award that they thought they would have gotten with Diamondback. Which is funny in this picture. Diamondback's actually in the background. I thought that was kind of funny. So Mystic Timbers actually won with 45% of the vote, which is huge. That is a big percentage. Flight of Passage was number 2 with 15% of the vote. Mind Blower number 3 with 8% of the vote. So it was impressive. From Don Helbig, which Don Helbig actually, fun fact, throwback to our racer episode. Remember the guy we talked about that broke the record for most of the coaster that has been rode the most by the same person? That was Don Helbig. He now works for Kings Island in their marketing department, and he was the one that announced Mystic Timbers.
Oh, cool.
So we have come full circle now. So this was Don Helbig said. He said, Mystic Timbers isn't the tallest or fastest roller coaster, and it doesn't break any records. The ride experience it delivers, however, is fun, thrilling, and memorable. It's a ride our guests just can't get enough of. Mystic Timbers is very reminiscent of how it was back in 1979 when the Beast debuted. As soon as the ride ends, our guests want to get right back in line to ride it again. And having multiple endings in the shed was kind of designed to help the re-rideability of the ride. Right. But then with the shed being kind of disappointing, I don't think that quite worked out. Probably not. Because the ride is so much fun and people love it so much, that's what gives it more re-rideability. So they accomplished their goal. So what's happened since 2017? What's happened since then? Well, the ride continues to be ranked as one of the best wooden coasters in the world. As we talked about earlier, it's actually gotten higher in the Golden Ticket Awards over the last 5 years. The enthusiast community nicknamed the tree on the ride Oakley.
Okay.
That is not an official term from Kings Island.
That's something you would come up with.
I know, it really is. So I'm proud of the enthusiasts on that one.
Oh my gosh.
It's really funny.
Good old Oakley.
Now, I told you we were going to talk about Twisted Timbers. You ready?
Yes.
So at Sister Park Kings Dominion, Twisted Timbers took some inspiration from Mystic Timbers because Twisted Timbers actually opened just 1 year later in 2018. So they opened pretty close to each other. So obviously the name, very similar, right? Which is why you get them confused.
Yes.
Both of them have a crashed truck in the queue.
Oh, that's funny.
Which is kind of interesting. And both of them are also GMCs. Yep. Yeah. So this is a better look at the... There you go. That is where the cannon hit the front of the truck.
So funny.
So they put that, right in line with the sign there to make it look like it crashed into the sign. I
seriously think they were just like, all right, how redneck can we get on?
Well, I'll tell you, if you watch the full video, the first thing they did was they took a big log and tied that to the crane and swung that at the truck.
The whole tying it to a crane thing.
I mean, that's better than driving the truck into a tree. That's more dangerous to do it that way.
I guess so. Yeah.
So it's better to, rather than throw the truck at the tree, throw the tree at the truck.
That's so funny to me.
The problem is when they tried the tree, like they took this big log and swung it, it didn't have enough velocity because like, in order for you to get a crash like this, you have to be going like 30 miles an hour running into a pole. They couldn't get the log to go that fast, so when it hit the truck, it just goes boink. It just bounces off. And you can actually see that in the video if you watch it.
What was that?
Boink. So instead, they put this cannon on there, which is way heavier, and that got the job done. So, but it's really funny.
Yeah, it's a cannon.
Yeah, it's a cannon. So they both have crash trucks in the queue. Both have truck-themed trains. So, here's Mystic Timbers on here, themed to the GMC 1000. Twisted Timbers, it's a different model of GMC, but they themed it to a vehicle the same way. So both of them very similar in that sense. And then similar backstories where, you have Mystic Timbers with the abandoned lumber yard that's been taken over by some, what's the word? Supernatural force. And then similar story to Twisted Timbers where it's an apple grove that's been abandoned because it was taken over by some supernatural force. So you can clearly see the similarities here, which is kind of interesting because, one, the rides are totally different in their actual ride experience. One's steel and one's wood. But because they are sister parks, it's kind of fun that they get to have similar rides with a similar story. So anyway, there you go. There's our Twisted Timbers discussion. Oh, another yawn. You're supposed to be making this more interesting.
No, why? I'm yawning so
boring.
much. I'm sorry. Okay, but here's my interesting thing.
Okay, here's your interesting thing.
I don't know why I'm... Okay, I really like this picture because this lady's got her tongue out.
Oh, that is a great picture. What's happening?
I have no idea. That's
I think is that her hood that's over her head? That must be what's going on back there.
Oh, no.
I do. That is one thing I always forget to do because when you look at coaster pictures and you look at the people on the ride, the reactions are pretty amazing.
I mean, that couple in the back are like loving life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh yeah.
What I like over here on Twisted Timbers, this guy's got his hands up, but he looks like he's miserable.
Yeah.
So I can't tell if he's having fun or not.
Yeah. Okay, the other question I have is, what is with hands in the air? I never understood that.
I'm the wrong person to ask because I actually don't raise my hands when I'm on a coaster either.
All right, so coaster enthusiasts, if you're out there listening to this, why do you put your hands in the air? Is it a different experience? That's my question.
Yeah, see, I think some people like to put their hands in the air because, then the coaster just takes them for whatever experience, whatever ride the coaster has. But for me, I like to be in control at least a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't want to take away from the airtime or the forces at all, but I just feel more secure when I'm holding on, and I feel like I can just appreciate the ride more when I'm doing it that way. Anyway, I don't know. I'm weird like that. I am an atypical coaster enthusiast in that aspect. So.
Oh, that's okay. You can be an atypical coaster enthusiast.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Mystic Timbers has made headlines this year, actually. You remember a few months back when there was this story going around about 911 calls happening because of people having the iPhone 14 in their pocket, and it thought that they were in a crash? Yeah, that was because of Mystic Timbers. So the story is iPhone 14 calls 911 when users ride Kings Island roller coasters.
Which is kind of hilarious because it's all based on the truck being in a car crash. You ever put the two and two together? It's that's kind of ironic.
Yeah. I don't think all of the instances were on Mystic Timbers, but the most prominent and the first ones started on Mystic Timbers. And then there's been reports on the Beast. There's even been reports of Iron Gwazi down in Tampa Bay. So it's happening on lots of roller coasters, but Mystic Timbers was the first one to gain traction of
really
being popular for that. So
it's just you're going on a ride that is all based on a truck being in a car crash, and it's alerting to a car crash. I don't know. I don't know why that's funny to me.
Well, just because there's a crashed vehicle outside the queue.
Yeah, I guess so.
So that was it. Made headlines earlier this year for that. And then just a few days ago, they actually debuted a new holiday lighting package on Mystic Timber. So this wasn't even there when we went there. Or maybe they were working on it, but we just didn't see it. So, but this actually, it's not solid colors. It like flashes and like the colors move. So,
cool.
So, but I couldn't find a way to export the video, so I just put a little screenshot in here. But that is the history of Mystic Timbers at Kings Island. And surprisingly enough, we did have enough content to, in the last 13 years since the beginning of the ride's history, we found enough content to make a full episode out of it. So.
You did it. High five.
We did it. High five. So, yeah, I really do enjoy Mystic Timbers. I have it ranked as my third favorite wooden coaster at this point.
I think it's funny that you have that, like, 2 different coaster lists.
Well,
Steel,
I
wood.
just have it in my head because I'm just going through the rankings of my top 20, and I know I have Outlaw Run and the Beast ahead of Mystic Timbers, which some enthusiasts would argue having the Beast above Mystic Timbers. But again, I need a night ride on Mystic Timbers because that could totally change my opinion too. Because I got a night ride on the Beast, but not on Mystic Timbers, so that could make a difference. And I've got night rides on Outlaw Run, which are awesome too.
Those are amazing. There's so much fun.
So, but that will have to wait until the next time we go to Kings Island.
Next trip.
Well, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Airtime Traveler. I do want to let those of you listening know, and I'll mention this for the in the intro for the next couple episodes. We are going to be taking a break at the end of the year. So our basically we're going to be doing seasons. So the end of season 1, quote unquote, will be at the end. I'm going to find the actual date really quick because I want to make this accurate for you guys. So this episode is coming out November 28th. There will be 2 more episodes this year, one on the 12th of December and one on the 26th of December. At that point, we are going to take a break. We probably will do some trip reports while we are taking the break. Just as we have time, we may record a trip report here and there. But season 2 of Airtime Traveler will resume. Let me get this date. It will resume on April 3rd, 2023. And then we will go back to every other week until the end of the year, just as we have done this year. So basically just taking a little 3-month break from January to March, just to give us some time to catch up on research and record some episodes, just in case one of us is sick. We can have some episodes in reserve. So it's just been a lot to to put all this, and having taking care of a toddler and working full time and going to the parks on all these trips we've been going on. It's been hard to keep up. As you can see, we have 5 or 6 trip reports we still need to record, and we just haven't gotten around to it. So this will give us some time to catch up, get back on track, and jump right into season 2 with some more content for you. And hopefully next year, so as you've noticed, we've been trying to do episodes that are for parks we've been to. Next year, we plan on going to Dollywood, Kentucky Kingdom, and Holiday World, at least, and Worlds of Fun, and maybe 1 or 2 others. We'll see. But at the very least, we'll have 4 more parks to dive into the history of the coasters at those parks. So I'm excited to have some more content, some more coasters to talk about next year. So anyway, like I said, I'll mention that in the next coming week so that you're not caught off guard when there's no new episode in January. But thanks for tuning in and being a part of season 1 of Airtime Traveler, and hopefully we can come back even bigger and better in season 2. So if you haven't followed us on social media, please be sure to do that. We're on Twitter and on Instagram. Our handle is just @Airtime Traveler. And I think that's all that we have for this week's episode. Any final thoughts to make this more interesting?
I mean, I still can't get over the blood story, but hey.
No, I don't want to talk about that.
You get squeamish, I think.
No, I don't know. I don't know whether to believe the story or not, so I'm like...
Leave it alone.
What's done is done, I suppose.
I mean, it was 3 years ago. Crazy.
That's true. She's fine.
She's got her
fine.
stitches. She's got a good scar, but
Oh gosh.
worst story on the Mystic.
That was quite the review. Well, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Airtime Traveler, and we'll see you in the next one.